When the heart becomes crowded with fears it cannot untangle, a quiet pain begins to rise. A pain that no one sees, yet it consumes you more than any struggle on the outside. Thoughts tighten around your chest, and every attempt to control your destiny pushes you further away from the peace you desperately seek. Ibni Arabi would say, "The heart breaks not because it is weak, but because it longs to return to the one who created it." When you stop forcing answers, when you stop trying to carry what was never yours to hold, a gentle mercy begins to weave itself through your soul. A mercy that waits for surrender, not strength. Letting go is the moment the heart breathes again. It is the moment you stop wrestling with what Allah has already written and allow His wisdom to enter the spaces where your fears have lived for far too long. In that surrender, the heart feels held, not by the world, but by the one who never lets a trusting soul fall. And as your heart returns to Him, a sweetness settles where the storm once raged. You realize that peace was never lost. It was waiting for the moment you would finally give your heart back to Allah. When the heart loosens its grip on what has been wounding it, a strange softness begins to enter, quiet, almost hidden, yet unmistakably healing. The pain that once felt like a part of your identity begins to lose its shape. You realize that the heart never needed to hold so tightly. It only did so out of fear of being empty. But through release, the heart discovers space where light can finally settle. There is a subtle awakening that begins the moment you stop feeding the hurt with your attention. The mind tries to replay the past, but the heart grows tired of repeating the same ache. In that tiredness lies a doorway to renewal. What you let go of does not diminish you. It frees the energy you once used to carry what was breaking you. The heart awakens when it realizes that clinging to pain does not protect it. It only keeps the wound open. As your grip loosens, the wound begins to breathe. The air of divine mercy touches it, not to erase the memory, but to soothe the fear built around it. In that softening, the heart feels a shift it once believed impossible. Clinging creates illusions that convince you your sorrow is necessary, that your attachment defines you. But once the heart gently releases these illusions, clarity flows in. You begin to see how much you were holding simply because you feared what would happen if you let go. And then you realize, letting go is where true strength begins. The awakening of the heart is not a dramatic event. It is a quiet unfolding, a loosening within you, a recognition that not everything deserves a home inside your chest. When you let go of what weighs you down, the heart rises naturally, effortlessly, as if it has been longing to lift itself toward the one who created it. Pain can feel familiar, and because of that, the heart clings to it, thinking it is safer to hold on than to release. But the awakening begins when you understand that familiarity is not peace. As you release the familiar hurt, the heart makes room for a peace it has never tasted but was always meant for. Sometimes the heart awakens through exhaustion when it can no longer carry what it once insisted on keeping. This exhaustion is not a failure, but a sign that the heart is ready for its rebirth. When the burden drops, even for a moment, you feel an unexpected lightness that reveals how heavily you were living. The moment you stop clinging to what hurts, your heart begins to recognize the subtle ways Allah has been trying to guide you all along. Signs you once ignored become clear. Mercy you once doubted becomes visible. The heart awakens not because the world changes, but because it finally has the space to see. The awakening comes with a sense of inner spaciousness, an expansion that fills your chest with a quiet hope. You begin to breathe differently, think differently, feel differently. This transformation is not forced. It happens naturally when the heart stops fighting for what wounds it. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means choosing to live without allowing the hurt to shape your every breath. When you release the weight, you discover parts of yourself that pain had overshadowed for too long. The awakening is the rediscovery of who you are beneath the layers of sorrow. When the heart stops clinging, it begins to trust. It learns that Allah replaces every surrendered hurt with something more fitting, more gentle, more aligned with your soul. The awakening is in recognizing that what leaves you creates room for what was written for you. The heart awakens when it no longer seeks to control what is beyond its reach. Control tightens the chest. Surrender opens it. Through surrender, the heart realizes how deeply it has been carried by divine wisdom, even during the moments it thought it was drowning. Sometimes releasing the hurt feels like stepping into the unknown. But this uncertainty becomes the fertile soil where new understanding grows. The heart awakens to the truth that safety was never in holding on it, was in trusting the one who holds all things. The moment you stop clinging, compassion rises inside you. Compassion for yourself, for your past, for your wounds. This compassion is a form of divine light, softening the harshness you once directed inward. It is a sign that your heart is awakening to its own worth. The heart awakens when it realizes it is not meant to be a storage place for pain, but a vessel for remembrance. Hurt clouds this remembrance. Letting go clears the mirror of the soul. In that clarity, the heart reflects meanings it could not perceive before. Detaching from what hurts does not make you cold, it makes you receptive. It allows the heart to feel guidance instead of fear, gratitude instead of resentment. Your awakening is a shift from surviving to truly living, from holding on to being held. Sometimes the heart awakens through a single moment of realization. This pain is not mine to keep. That moment becomes the beginning of emotional freedom. It is the heart recognizing the difference between what shaped it and what is still allowed to stay. When you release the hurt, your heart begins to sense divine timing in ways it never could before. You recognize that what was taken was protection, what was delayed was mercy, and what remains is exactly what your soul needs. This recognition is the heartbeat of awakening. As the heart awakens, it grows gentler, not weaker, but wiser. It learns to choose peace over attachment, trust over fear, God over wounds. This wisdom becomes the lantern guiding your steps toward a life aligned with divine grace. And when the heart fully awakens, it understands the secret. Letting go was never about losing anything. It was about returning to the purity Allah placed within you, a purity that cannot shine while clinging to what hurts. The awakening is the heart remembering itself again. When the mind stops chasing every thought that passes through it, a gentle stillness rises from a place you forgot existed. This stillness doesn't come with an announcement or a dramatic shift. It arrives like dawn, quietly expanding light across the horizon of your inner world. You begin to notice this calm only when the noise that once filled every corner of your mind starts to dissolve on its own. The noise of the mind often grows from fear. Fear of what could be, fear of what was, fear of losing control. But when the heart finally admits it cannot carry every possibility, the mind loosens its grip on the world. In that loosening, a hidden calm slips in, teaching you that surrender brings clarity more effectively than overthinking ever could. This calm is not the absence of thought, it is the gentle ordering of thought. The mind begins to quiet not because it has fewer worries, but because it finally understands those worries were never meant to be solved by human effort alone. When you release the need to fix everything, the mind opens like a window, allowing divine air to sweep through. Often, what the mind calls thinking is actually clinging. It grips every uncertainty, replaying it endlessly, as if repetition will provide a solution. But once this clinging weakens, the mind begins to feel lighter. The calm that follows is like a soft rain washing away dust from the soul, revealing the ground of peace beneath it. The mind finds calm when it stops living in two worlds, imagining futures that haven't come and reliving pasts that cannot return. When you settle into the present moment, the mind releases the tension that comes from trying to exist everywhere but now. In this presence, A calm unfolds that feels both ancient and new. Sometimes the mind quiets not because life becomes easier, but because the heart becomes wiser. The heart teaches the mind to rest, to trust, to stop drowning in possibilities. As the mind listens, even reluctantly, a stillness arrives that feels like being carried rather than pushed. This is the calm the soul has been longing for. There is a hidden doorway inside the mind that opens only when noise fades. Through this doorway, you glimpse a peace that does not depend on circumstances. It is a peace rooted in knowing that Allah is managing what your thoughts cannot. When the mind releases its noise, it discovers what faith feels like. The calm appears slowly, like a tide returning after a storm. At first, you may not recognize it. You expect calm to be loud, obvious, overwhelming. But it arrives as gentleness within your breath, within your pauses, within your softened reactions. It is subtle enough to be missed, yet powerful enough to reshape your entire inner landscape. When the mind stops fighting its own thoughts, a calm emerges that feels like a blessing you didn't realize you were ready to receive. The struggle subsides, not because everything is solved, but because the mind finally understands that solutions unfold in their own divine timing. In this understanding, the noise loses its authority. The mind releases noise when it grows tired of running after what it desires, running from what it fears, running toward what it thinks will bring peace. But peace is not found in the chase. Peace waits in the stillness you avoided. When the chase ends, the hidden calm steps forward. As the mind grows quieter, your senses begin to sharpen spiritually. You notice the way your heart responds to truth, the way your soul gravitates toward Allah, the way your spirit softens under remembrance. This sensitivity is the fruit of calm, the heart's ability to perceive what noise once drowned out. When the mind releases its noise, trust becomes easier. You feel carried by something beyond your own reasoning. You realize you do not need to predict every outcome or prepare for every possibility. In this trust, the calm deepens, settling into you like a companion that refuses to leave. There are moments when the mind's noise dissolves simply because you allow yourself to feel instead of analyze. Emotions that were trapped beneath thought begin to flow naturally. This release purifies the soul, making space for a calm that comes not from avoidance, but from letting truth be felt fully. The calm grows each time you choose silence over reaction, stillness over panic, remembrance over rumination. These small choices reshape the mind's habits. With each choice, the noise weakens and the calm strengthens, showing you that peace is built through softness, not force. Sometimes the hidden calm appears when you finally give your thoughts back to Allah. You confess your inability to understand the path, and the act of surrender itself quiets the inner storm. In acknowledging your limitations, you make space for divine wisdom to steady you. As the noise fades, the mind begins to reflect rather than react. Reflection is rooted in wisdom, reaction in fear. When reflection becomes your inner language, calm becomes your inner climate. You feel anchored, even when life remains uncertain. The hidden calm appears when you stop seeking validation from the outside world and listen instead to the quiet guidance placed within you. The mind releases its noise when it no longer needs to prove itself. This freedom births a serenity that cannot be shaken by external events. Sometimes the mind grows quiet because it finally recognizes its own exhaustion. In that recognition, it surrenders to the heart's deeper knowing. The calm that follows feels like stepping into a sanctuary built inside your chest, a sanctuary only Allah could create. As the mind releases its noise, gratitude rises naturally. You begin to notice blessings that were once invisible beneath your overthinking. Gratitude becomes the rhythm of the calm, drawing the heart closer to contentment with whatever Allah has written. And when the mind finally quiets enough, you realize the hidden truth. The calm was never missing. It was simply waiting behind the noise you carried too long. The moment you let the noise go, the calm returns to claim the space that belonged to it all along. When you loosen your grip on what weighs heavily upon your soul, Allah begins reshaping the landscape of your inner world in ways you cannot see at first. Letting go creates an opening, a quiet space where divine mercy enters without resistance. What once felt cluttered with fear, doubt, and attachment slowly begins to clear, making room for clarity that only surrender can invite. The heart often resists release, believing it must hold on to understand. But true understanding arrives after letting go, not before it. When you surrender what burdens you, Allah rearranges your emotions, placing peace where confusion used to live. The fear that once dominated your inner world softens, replaced by a trust that emerges without effort. Letting go is not an ending, it is the unlocking of a new way of seeing. When you release the weight, Allah shifts your perspective, allowing you to view your life from a higher, gentler place. What once appeared chaotic begins to form a pattern, revealing the hidden wisdom beneath every delay, every disappointment, every unexpected turn. Allah rearranges your inner world by healing places you didn't know were wounded. You may feel only the loosening of a burden, but beneath the surface, He is stitching together the fragile pieces of your heart. This inner healing unfolds silently, unnoticed at first, but slowly transforming your emotional foundations. When you let go of what was never meant for you, Allah fills the void with something more aligned with your soul. This replacement is not always immediate. Sometimes the space remains empty for a while. But in that emptiness, He plants new intentions, new insights, new strengths that rise when the heart is ready. Letting go allows Allah to remove the noise that once drowned out your deeper intuition. He rearranges the inner clutter so that your heart can hear again. Hear guidance, hear truth, hear the subtle pull toward what is written for you. In this sanctified quiet, the soul discovers its direction. Allah performs His rearrangement with immense precision. He takes the pain you held too tightly and transforms it into compassion. He takes your confusion and turns it into wisdom. He takes your fear and molds it into humility. These changes do not happen through force, they happen through surrender. When you allow yourself to let go, your inner world begins to experience spaciousness. The narrow corridors of worry widen into landscapes of calm. In this space, divine light can move freely, illuminating thoughts and emotions that were previously hidden under layers of tension. Letting go teaches the heart to breathe again. The tightness in your chest slowly dissolves, replaced by a softness that feels foreign yet deeply comforting. This breath is not just physical, it is the soul inhaling reassurance from Allah, reassurance that was always there but unreachable beneath the weight you carried. Allah reorganizes your inner world by shifting your attachments. What once held your heart tightly begins to lose its power. What once seemed impossible becomes attainable. What once frightened you loses its authority. Your inner loyalties shift toward Him, and through this shift, peace becomes your natural state. When you stop clinging to the future, Allah rearranges your relationship with time. You become more present, more aware, more connected to the moment you're living. The anxiety that once stemmed from what might happen begins to fade, replaced by trust in the one who holds what will happen. Your inner world changes dramatically when you accept that not every door is meant to open. This acceptance allows Allah to redirect your heart toward the doors carved specifically for your soul. You may not see the new path yet, but He clears the branches along the way so you can walk without stumbling. Letting go softens the heart's defenses. You no longer build walls to protect yourself from uncertainty. Instead, Allah reinforces your heart with faith, faith that gives you strength without hardness, confidence without arrogance, openness without fear. This spiritual softness becomes your quiet armor. The rearrangement also appears in your desires. What you used to chase loses its shine, and what you once ignored begins to call you. Your heart starts to align with the deeper purpose it was written for. These new desires are not self-made. They are placed gently within you as divine invitations. When you release the burdens you once protected, Allah exposes the deeper layers of your soul. You begin to understand your emotions with more compassion, your past with more forgiveness, your struggles with more meaning. This inner clarity allows you to walk through life with a heart that feels lighter yet wiser. Letting go allows Allah to shift your emotional equilibrium. Instead of reacting quickly from fear or assumptions, you begin responding from a place of calm and understanding. Your heart becomes a vessel of presence rather than panic. This shift is subtle, but it transforms the way you live, speak, and perceive. Allah rearranges the heart's direction by gently guiding you away from what harms your spirit. This guidance may feel like loss at first, but with time, you recognize it as protection. He redirects you toward connections, experiences, and paths that nourish your soul instead of draining it. When you let go, Allah places strength where weakness once dominated. The trials that once overwhelmed you are met with a resilience that surprises you. This strength does not come from the world, it comes from surrender. It is the strength of a heart supported by divine wisdom rather than personal control. Letting go uncovers the heart's capacity for peace. Peace is not something you create. It is something Allah places once the noise clears. This peace begins quietly, like a whisper, then grows until it fills every corner of your inner world with certainty that you are being guided, held, and prepared. And when Allah finishes rearranging your inner world, you realize the transformation was never about loss. It was about return. Return to clarity, return to trust, return to the heart Allah intended for you all along. Through letting go, you rediscover the self that was hidden beneath the burdens you were never meant to carry. Peace begins to return when the heart stops searching for answers in places that were never meant to provide them. It realizes that clarity does not come from control, nor does safety come from predicting every outcome. Instead, peace appears the moment the heart turns toward the one who writes every moment with precision. This turning is not dramatic, it is gentle, like a leaf shifting in the breeze toward the Sunday. Trust does not enter the heart suddenly. It grows quietly, almost invisibly, each time you choose to breathe instead of panic, surrender instead of grasp, accept instead of resist. These small acts of reliance become threads that stitch peace back into your soul. Over time, the heart realizes it feels safest, not in certainty, but in divine care. When the heart returns to trust, its wounds begin to soften. The sharp edges of old memories lose their power. What once felt unbearable becomes something you can hold without breaking. This softening is a sign that Allah has placed a calming mercy in your chest, allowing peace to take root where fear once dominated. Peace finds its way back when you stop trying to understand everything with your mind and begin to feel with your soul. The soul knows the language of trust far better than the intellect does. It recognizes divine nearness even when circumstances seem dark. In this recognition, peace becomes less of a feeling and more of a homecoming. The return to trust often begins with the smallest realization. I am not alone in this. That awareness alone melts layers of worry. You feel the weight in your chest lighten, not because the situation changed, but because the heart remembered who is holding it. This remembrance is the doorway through which peace returns. As trust strengthens, the heart stops trembling at every unknown. It becomes anchored in the certainty that Allah never writes harm without purpose, nor hardship without hidden mercy. This anchoring brings a steadiness even in difficulty, allowing peace to rise where anxiety once lived. Sometimes the heart returns to trust because it has exhausted every other option. When the mind reaches the limits of its strength, surrender becomes the only path left. But this surrender is not weakness. It is the opening through which divine peace flows, washing away the residue of fear and confusion. When peace returns, it does not come as silence alone. It comes as understanding, a deep recognition that what happened, what changed, what left, and what arrived, all carried divine wisdom. This understanding settles the heart, making it feel witnessed and guided in ways it had forgotten. Trust transforms the heart's relationship with time. You no longer rush the future or cling to the past. You begin to walk with the rhythm Allah has written for you. This alignment brings an internal harmony, a peace that does not depend on life being perfect, but on trusting the one who perfects all things. Peace returns when the heart begins to see blessings, even in what once felt like loss. You realize that Allah sometimes removes what blocks you from growing, even if that removal is painful. The heart, once fearful, becomes grateful, and gratitude opens a flood of peace that touches every corner of your soul. As trust deepens, your reactions change. Instead of collapsing under pressure, you pause. Instead of drowning in what if, you remember, Allah is with me. These shifts, subtle but profound, rewrite the emotional patterns that once led you into turmoil. Peace becomes not an escape, but a natural response. Trust allows the heart to accept that it does not need to understand everything it experiences. This acceptance frees the soul from the endless struggle to make sense of every detail. In this freedom, peace settles like rain on dry ground, nourishing places within you that were long deprived. When peace returns, conversations with Allah become easier. Your prayers gain softness, your tears feel lighter, and your heart speaks more honestly. Trust opens a bridge between your soul and its Creator, turning prayer from request into refuge. The peace that flows from this connection is unlike anything the world can give. Sometimes peace returns in fragments, small moments of calm scattered throughout the day. A breath that feels lighter, a thought that feels hopeful, a silence that feels comforting. These fragments are signs that Allah is restoring your heart slowly, preparing it to carry trust more fully. Trust gives the heart a new language. It begins to interpret trials as lessons, delays as protection, and closed doors as redirection. This shift in interpretation changes everything. What once caused pain now brings understanding. What once brought fear now brings peace. The heart finds peace again when it realizes that Allah has never failed it, not once. Even the moments that felt like abandonment were hidden forms of care. This realization heals the heart from old doubts, allowing trust to settle deeper than it ever has before. In this depth, peace flourishes. Trust brings the heart back to alignment with its true nature. The soul was created to rely on Allah, not to struggle alone. When the heart rests in this reliance, it stops feeling torn between faith and fear. It becomes whole again, and this wholeness is the essence of peace. When peace returns, it changes the way you carry yourself. You speak with softness, move with gentleness, think with clarity. You respond from strength rather than insecurity. The world around you may remain chaotic, but inside, a sanctuary has been rebuilt, one crafted by surrender and guarded by trust. Peace becomes your companion. When you embrace the reality that what is written for you will reach you, and what is not written never could. This acceptance frees the heart from anxiety, allowing it to blossom in tranquility. Such peace is not temporary, it becomes your inner climate. The return of peace is simply the heart returning to the place it was created for, trust in Allah. When you settle into that trust, the world feels less heavy, the future less frightening, and your soul less scattered. Peace is not found, it is remembered, awakened the moment the heart leans back into the one who has held it all along. Every worry you release, every thought you surrender, every burden you place back into Allah's hands. becomes a doorway to the peace your heart has been searching for. Letting go is not losing control. It is returning to the one who has been guiding you since before your first breath. So give your heart back to Allah and watch how gently He restores what overthinking has broken. In surrender, the soul finally rests. And in trust, it finally finds its way home.